Welcome to the Baseball Insiders Puppy Party. I am Adam Weinrib, joined as always by Fansided's MLB insider Robert Murray. It was a long weekend. It was a nice weekend. It was a fun weekend. Dogs are involved. And we learned that Roki Sasaki will be posted. When? Who's he going to? Why now? What do we know? Is it a Dodgers done deal? What's the situation? Should fans of other teams be paying attention? Why am I so boring that I'm making Robert's dog yawn? These are the most important questions, but to break them down, as always, as well as a couple other pieces of news and respond to your questions, Clayton McCullough going to Miami. I have questions about that. I'm sure most of you have great questions as well. Pop into the comment section. Robert Murray, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's good to be here. I got a new intern, Meet Cooper. Got him a few days ago, and he's been a huge bundle of joy. Had to debut him on the podcast because he already has as many sources as anyone in baseball, so good job by Cooper. But we have a lot to talk about today with Roki Sasaki. There are Juan Soto updates. We have plenty of stuff in the notebook as well to dive into, and Cooper is ready to dive into it with me as well. I'm going to set him down because he's getting a little squirmy. I woke him up from a nap just so he could be on the show. So everybody say hi and bye to Cooper. Oh, let's go down, buddy. All right. There we go. Adam, kicking it off to you, my friend.
Let's go. And I'm going to do my little spiel. Then I'll toss it off to you, at which point I will also put Biscuit away. He's fresh off a haircut. He's pretty tired. He needs to nap as well. These are both very good boys. Aaron Boone, also a good boy? Question mark. We'll get into it. But if you're joining us now, you picked a good time. This is the Baseball Insiders heyday. The offseason is just beginning. We thought maybe there would be some actual movement this weekend. It would begin in earnest. It kind of didn't, but that's still a great argument to join the Baseball Insiders Discord, whether you can join us at the Rumor Mill tier, where you get access to Robert and I between shows, or the All-Star level. We've got perks for you. We're going to have designated Q&A times in that channel reserved to talk to Robert and I in the coming weeks. We'll give you more details on that after we meet as a team later this week. We'll also obviously give you priority responses in this stream. Bring your questions to the chat, of course, but if you bring them to the All-Star channel first, we'll clock that. We'll see you. We'll respond here on the show. Additionally, if you're not subscribed to the Moonshot, that's our weekly baseball email newsletter. We welcome your subscriptions. That's the Fansided MLB Teams newsletter that includes Robert Murray breaking down all the biggest stories in the big leagues with humor, insight, and behind-the-scenes info. So please join us there. And before I peel off and drop Biscuit off, we will start with Roki Sasaki. It's a big question because it changes everything, and the field is technically more open based on when Sasaki lands. We still don't, as far as I can tell, know whether he's going to be part of the 2024 international free agent period or 2025, when teams are much less strapped for cash, more unlimited flow, more teams can get involved. Bottom line, we find out he's declaring. Why is he declaring now? Do we have any insight into what period he plans to land in?
Yeah, as far as Sasaki goes, we do not have any real insight into when he's exactly going to be like a free agent or when he's going to want to sign. I think that's kind of all up in the air right now. But as far as his market goes, it is going to be incredibly extensive. He is, I've had some people tell me that they think he's even better than Yoshinobu Yamamoto. I know that opinion is not like the exact same around the league. There's obviously always varying opinions, but everyone in baseball thinks very highly of Sasaki. They think he's got frontline potential. And considering that if he signs now, it'll be for a cheaper contract, I expect almost every team in baseball to be in on Sasaki. I mean, a talent like his caliber, and especially as cheap as he'll come this offseason, if he is indeed going to sign this offseason, it's a rare opportunity for teams. And it's huge news that he will be posted. It's huge news that he'll be in baseball within at least, like, I don't know, whenever he decides to sign. But all eyes in baseball are going to end up being on Sasaki, on Juan Soto, on Corbin Burns, on some of these high-end caliber players. And I really think Sasaki kind of really matches up with some of those elite level starters that are available right now.
My question, I think, is Dodgers have sort of felt like an inevitable landing spot for many, and not just because of, they get everybody, or like, well, they got Ohtani and Yamamoto, although partially because of that. But more and more information sort of coming out. It also has not just been connecting dots. I mean, we've spoken about the Dodgers being favorites on this show for quite a while. It's sort of been conventional wisdom and also frustrated fan of other team wisdom. But there was at least a little bit this week. I mean, we heard about his relationship with Yu Darvish. The Sox and the Yankees are scouting him. There was a rumor from Japan that he wants to look at a small market team with a strong development plan after being raked over the coals in Japan the past couple of years. Some of that media attention and scrutiny may have gotten to him, which isn't exactly a plus in the Dodgers column. Still, there's too much Dodger smoke for me to just say, oh, well, it's a small market team. That's it. Pirates and Reds, get your checkbooks. He won't be a Dodger. Thoughts on favorites, whether it's still fair to have a favorite with as little as we do actually know about Sasaki?
Yeah, I think it's a little too early to say that there's a favorite. I know it's everyone around baseball, or every reporter is kind of linked the Dodgers to Sasaki, and I've heard the exact same things. Don't get me wrong, but I firmly expect them to be a big player. I think the Padres are going to be a big player as well. I think the Yu Darvish connection there is absolutely huge. I think the Rangers could make sense. I know Evan Grant linked them to Sasaki earlier today, or it was yesterday. And I think that fit makes a lot of sense. I think the Red Sox make sense. There's so many teams, as I mentioned. I expect almost every team to at least check in with his agent, Joel Wolf, and try to see what it's going to take to convince him to go there. That being said, like we've seen, as you said, like the small market teams being linked, that he's going to be heavily considering them. We're talking about big market teams like the Dodgers or the Padres or whatever. He's going to evaluate all these things. He's going to want to make sure he goes to a good environment where he can maximize his abilities. And if he signs this offseason, Cooper, don't chew that. He's going to evaluate all of his options. So we'll see exactly what comes of it, but it's way too early to tell if there's a favorite or not. So I would just be patient with this. I think that's going to be the common theme of the offseason. I know there's going to be a question later about the pace of the offseason. Mm-hmm. I'm just telling you right now, be very patient, because this could be a very slow winter, perhaps as slow as last winter. I don't know if even slower, but it could be pretty slow.
I think Cooper just got his mouth on Robert's Rolodex. So Cooper, please stop. If you're still chewing, don't chew. Yeah, I mean, Sasaki immediately throws kind of a wrench into this whole thing, right? Like, developmental project, sure. He doesn't have the innings on his arm. We're getting a young pitcher. We're getting a starter who might not be able to take on that ace workload right away, like a Burns, a Fried, or even a Snell. But he's pretty accurately viewed as a frontline guy for 2025, right?
Oh, he absolutely is. He is absolutely, like everyone around baseball, I think, is in agreement that he's got frontline potential, like as a starting pitcher. Like I think. As far as his free agent market goes, that is going to be something that is on everyone's mind. It's going to make him incredibly valuable, especially if he signs this winter for how cheap he would be. I mean, it's rare to have the opportunity to add a frontline pitcher for such a low salary. I think that's why he's got to really be careful, or just evaluate things this offseason. If he doesn't want to force it, and if he wants to wait another year to become a free agent next year, we'll see. But as far as his status and how people view him around baseball, it is as a frontline starting pitcher. I know we look at guys like Corbin Burns, like Max Fried. I'm forgetting another. Well, Blake Snell as well. I hesitate to put him in that category yet, because he hasn't proven it at the major league level. But that being said, with what his upside is, he can easily be in that category. He can even be better than those guys, but he just needs to prove it. And I think over time he will, especially if he goes to the right environment.
Yes. Jeff Hoffman, I'd put in that top category. Seeing some questions about him. No, not quite, but interesting. Jeff Hoffman, rotation option. We will see where that lands. All right. Good insight so far. Obviously, we will stay tuned on this. And when we know what pool he's going to count against 2024 or 2025, that will further color our ability to assess this. You mentioned the Soto news, the big old Jeff Passan column coming this morning. Feel like we might as well throw that into the rundown now and get it out of the way as well before we move on to a couple personnel shifts and some questions from the audience, as well as the full overflowing notebook, which Cooper may or may not be eating. Jeff Passan wrote a lengthy column this morning on Soto, laid out the first couple of Soto visitors. We've got the Blue Jays coming in first, who I know John Heyman is sort of pushing as a competitor that could overwhelm the big boys contract-wise. The Red Sox visiting Soto in California next. Soto taking these meetings at Scott Boras' house, I guess, instead of his home turf. Interesting for those of us. It's all East Coast teams so far, but Soto is on the West Coast. Anyway, read into that as you will, or don't read into it at all. Then you've got the Mets, and the initial news when the Mets visit was broken, I believe also by John Heyman, or it was a Post exclusive, but it wasn't a Heyman column. Heyman got the Yankees. There was a nugget in the original Post column that said Brian Cashman wasn't sure if the Yankees would, and Hal Steinbrenner would be meeting with Soto again. He didn't know if Soto had enough familiarity. Very clearly after it was announced that Steve Cohen was going west, the Yankees also pulled together a contingent. That'll be Hal, that'll be Boone, presumably Brian Cashman as well. So that's what we know. Also, Passan noted that the Dodgers, as we've sort of been hinting at, might be out, might jump back into the market if it craters, but don't have interest at this current level of bidding. And I think the one thing we can say about the Juan Soto chase is that the bidding will probably not be cratering based on the people who are currently involved. But is that lining up with what you're hearing, the schedule of Soto and market visits? And there were even rumors this could get wrapped up by the winter meetings. That doesn't feel likely to me, but curious of your thoughts there as well.
Yeah, as far as the timetable on this, I don't think anybody really knows, but I would be surprised if it happens before the winter meetings. I'd be really surprised if that ends up happening before then. I could see Boris wanting to end up getting that done during the winter meetings because that would give it the most spotlight because everyone would be in one place and it would just create like a huge buzz throughout the winter meetings there in Dallas. That being said, though, like obviously we've talked about the Yankees and the Mets as the two favorites for Juan Soto, and like I still believe that to be the case to this day. I do find it really interesting, though. It's like I have not confirmed this with anybody in Toronto, but you talk to people around the league, like with teams that are going to be in the Soto chase or even not in the Soto chase, and they always believe that the Blue Jays would end up being like one of like the real threats. And I'm not saying that's going to end up being like where he goes. I'm not trying to get Blue Jays' fans like their hopes up by any means, but they to me feel like a team that could make a push and they could really be a factor in this. I'm not gonna go any further than that, but there's gonna be plenty of competition here. Like the Red Sox, like they absolutely they love Juan Soto. The Giants, I know John Heyman connected the Giants to Soto, and I'm inclined to believe that. I have not independently confirmed that myself, but I believe that to be true at least. There's going to be a lot of different teams in this. It also is going to complicate things and also slow the timetable of a potential signing because a signing of this magnitude and like when you get to 500-600 million or whatever it's going to end up being, ownership is going to be heavily involved in this, and that means it's going to be a slower process. So I would really be patient here. He's not going to sign tomorrow. He is not going to sign before the winter meetings unless something just crazy happens. It's going to be a while until he signs. And until he signs, I expect the free agent market to be pretty slow. There's going to be other players that sign for sure before then, but I think most of the big boys are going to end up coming after Soto. And it's just going to make for a pretty frustrating winter. I know that's not what you guys want to hear, but I always give it to you straight on the Baseball Insiders because you guys come here for accurate information. But I would just brace for a pretty slow winter.
Certainly not going to sign tomorrow, I would say, given that all of these meetings are still lined up for next week. It seems a little telling to me that the Yankees are getting this final meeting of the first stretch, but also not really. But it would be a pretty bad look, and we've said it on the show in the past, if the Yankees get that final meeting, get an offer to match, and then decline to match it or try to dance around matching it. Robert has said the Yankees can't afford to lose this guy. I would agree. It creates some somewhat awkward conundrums, right? Where does Aaron Judge play? Can't play center field much longer, whatever. But those are the kinds of things that you entertain for Juan Soto. Like if Aaron Judge is forced into a weird position switch because you really want to chase Tyler O'Neill, then your team is being stupid. But if you're forced to change your defensive alignment to accommodate Juan Soto finishing his career in pinstripes, I think you probably do that. So, again, we don't know anything about the order of operations and when the meetings are and what matters there and whatnot. But like Robert has said, if the Yankees get a chance to match the top offer and then just don't, that's malpractice.
Oh, totally. And that would end up being very similar to kind of what ended up happening with Shohei Ohtani when he was a free agent. Is like the Angels knew the price for Ohtani and they were not willing to match that. And they looked completely stupid for doing that. And that's not a Perry thing. That is an Artie Moreno thing in LAA. That's just what it is. But if the Yankees, like the Angels are one thing, but if the Yankees have a chance to match a Juan Soto offer and they don't, that impacts so many different. I mean, that's an ownership thing. That's like it would fall a little bit on Brian Cashman for sure, but it would fall directly on ownership, and that would make them look awful. And if that scenario ends up happening, Yankees, like usually I'm like settle down, like relax, like you're overreacting. Yankees fans would have every right to be incredibly pissed. I don't see that scenario end up happening where they'd end up getting I think they're just going to end up being one of the most aggressive bidders, but I hope that doesn't happen for Yankees fans because that'd be a tough pill to swallow.
The comment section is universally hoping that does happen to Yankees fans, but we do appreciate the sympathy there. Look, hey, if we want a positive, negative spin, what have you, for Yankee fans here as well, I think a lot of people heard that Aaron Boone was coming back next year and got their jokes in, and they were like, oh my God, like he just blew the World Series. Now he's returning. The Yankees are an unserious organization. And your points are heard and warranted. We understand. But I do want to note that it's not an extension. It's just an option pickup for 2025. And Boone said yesterday that he's not currently having any extension talks with the Yankees. Is this something? Is it nothing? Is it almost something? Or are we now finally moving towards the point where 2025 is a make or break year for Boone's future, no matter how well liked he is by the players?
Yeah, I'm not surprised whatsoever about the lack of extension talks. It puts pressure on the manager for sure when you're entering a season where you don't have clarity at the end of the year. Mike Schilt just did that in San Diego, I believe. Obviously, he did a great job with it, so it's not like completely unheard of. But Boone is incredibly respected in that clubhouse, in that front office, and around the league. But after what ended up happening in the postseason, especially in the World Series, with all the miscues that they had, I mean, that falls directly on the coaching staff. And it happened on the national stage. I can't remember what inning it was in the final game there, but I'm sure you can.
Top of the fifth, everybody's scariest Halloween costume.
Yeah, that was about as embarrassing as it gets on the national stage, and it lost them the World Series because even Dave Roberts admitted it. If that series got back to Los Angeles, they were nervous because, I mean, that's when the pressure is squarely on the Dodgers to close it out, and the Yankees were just playing free and easy. So I'm not surprised following all of that there's been no extension talks. I think this year is absolutely a make it or break it year for Aaron Boone in New York. And if they end up falling short, if they miss the postseason in 2025, then I think a change will be made. But my guess is the Yankees, especially if they get Juan Soto, like this offseason, we don't know what that roster is going to look like because there's so many different question marks on that team. But if they're able to retain Juan Soto and fill the roster with different quality pieces around him, I think they're going to be in position to compete, and that would really obviously enhance the chances that he stays. Aaron Boone, I'm talking, so we'll see. There's a lot up in the air, but I expect Boone to come through and get an extension after or even during the season in New York. Yeah. And also, should I drop a little bit of very small news?
Drop it. Drop the hell out of it.
All right. So Steve Okert, the relief pitcher.
Never mind. Too small. Don't drop it.
Yeah, he reached an agreement on a minor league contract with the Houston Astros. So that is news that has not hit Twitter. But Okert is going to the Astros on a minor league contract, I am told. Let's see if I got the money here. If he reaches the majors, it will be $1.2 million. So that is indeed the agreement for Okert and the Astros. So congratulations to both of them.
It has not hit Twitter, but has it hit Blue Sky?
It is not. I've gotten a lot of comments about Blue Sky. I don't even know what that is.
We're moving over there, baby. It's like new Twitter. It looks like old Twitter. I got a bunch of followers finally after months of all my Blue Sky posts were like, why don't I have any followers? It's like, okay, well, now I do. So I actually have to clean up my act. But yeah, everybody's heading over there. If you're not following me, follow me. I'll try to post some bits over there, and maybe we get Robert over there as well.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I got to figure out what Blue Sky is. I mean, you just kind of gave it some insight there, but I want to do some more homework before I potentially grow. Cinnamon Wilson, I appreciate your comment there. I know Adam does as well.
Also, Cinnamon Wilson, what a name! Like, it's probably not your real name, but it should be. It might be my son's name someday.
Dude, I hope so. That's a sweet name. I might change Cooper's name to Cinnamon. That's
Yeah,
sweet.
it's not too late. Does he react to Cooper yet? Can we get
He
Cinnamon?
actually does. He does. Like before, like when I was like looking back, he was chewing my TV stand, and then he was also chewing my couch. So he's off to a slow start here on the Baseball Insider. So we'll like watch the film together, and we'll get better.
I recommend they've got these big bones called Bones that kind of taste like bacon. Biscuit is what has been labeled by doctors an aggressive chewer, and he loves these. They're very helpful.
Yeah, he's Biscuit, and I got that in common too. So maybe I could use one as well.
Yeah. Biscuit is an absolute aggressive nut. But we love the man. He's getting some shots today. Good job, Biscuit. Gonna answer a few questions. Open the notebook. I just want to touch on Clayton McCullough too. Jumped from the Dodgers to Miami over the weekend. Very hot candidate who's been interviewed for numerous jobs. Decided that the Marlins were the squad that he wanted to pilot. Now, is this just an example of can't pass up a managerial opportunity? I mean, jumping from the world champions into an obvious promotion with the Miami Marlins has its pros, has its drawbacks. What are your thoughts here on why he chose this right now to be the time that he jumped ship?
Yeah, I think the Marlins' job is really complicated. They obviously lost out on their first two options in Venable and Alcarnaz, and they were kind of trying to figure that out. What exactly was next for them as far as their managerial search. And when I was at the GM meetings, I was talking to their front office there, and they made it very clear that they were getting close to hiring a manager. I asked exactly how close or how many candidates there were. Peter Bendix would not tell me. But he did tell me that it was indeed close, and that McCullough and ultimately McCullough was the guy that they ended up hiring. And I don't know if this is out there at all, but he actually interviewed with them in their last managerial search. So this is not exactly new interest for them. So they ended up getting a guy that they view as a high upside guy. I think it's going to be really important for them, or for him especially, to add some veteran coaches around him. Because I know there's some people around the league who are kind of, it's a mixed bag of opinions on exactly what his managerial candidacy is and like how exactly he'll do like running a team. So I think adding like veteran coaches around him is going to be crucial for exactly his development, and also how that Marlins team is going to look going forward. Because the job that Peter Bendix did, and I talked to him extensively about this at the GM meetings actually, because I was fascinated by his deadline and just exactly how many trades they ended up making. And they ended up really like kind of overhauling their team. They traded a lot of their high-end talent. Well, I mean, they didn't have a lot of high-end talent. Let me rephrase that. But they traded a lot of their major league talent off the roster, and they ended up adding some really intriguing pieces. I'm really high on Connor Norby and some of the pieces they ended up getting from the Padres. So I'm curious to see exactly how they develop. And I think McCullough and the coaches that he ends up adding around himself are going to be crucial for that. And he cannot afford to get this wrong, because this might be his only chance. I mean, you can say that about any first-year manager, but I think it's going to be really important for him.
Completely agreed and good. Yeah, I'm curious about Norby year two too. I do like what the Marlins did last year. As much as I tell you what, I also dislike what the Orioles did last year, and that's a flip side part of it. So we'll definitely. It seems terrible. We'll figure out how terrible it was moving forward, whether they have a terrible addendum to their trade deadline this offseason. Well, time to empty that notebook. I'll hit you with a couple of questions from the chat. The Discord questions today were mostly about, hey, when is the trade market going to heat up? When is the free agent market going to heat up? And the answer we already addressed earlier in the podcast is it might be a while. It might be a while. But we'll see. We'll do what we can in the meantime. But for now, empty that notebook. Anything that has come across your desk since the last time that we spoke?
Yeah, there is, as far as the free agent market goes, as I mentioned before, this is going to end up being a really slow process here. And we're going to have to be really patient. I know there's going to be people in the comments, in the Discord, on Twitter, you name it, or X. Now it's called X, not Twitter. But there's going to be people who are going to get really frustrated by the pace of this offseason. And I would just recommend just be patient. We're going to get signings eventually. They may not come exactly when you want them, but just it's going to be a pretty slow winter, at least to the start. And I thought as soon as the qualifying offers were issued, I thought that of all the candidates, Nick Pivetta could end up being like the most realistic option to accept it. And I was talking to people at the GM meetings, and some president of baseball operations or even some GMs kind of agree with that statement, but ultimately they ended up saying that they thought he would decline it and end up getting a strong multi-year deal. I am led to believe, as Jeff Passan reported today, I think Pivetta ends up declining that, and he ends up going either with the Red Sox or another team with a multi-year contract. So we'll see there. I know the starting pitching market, there's some activity there for sure. Eovaldi's gotten interest, as I've said before, with the Braves, the Rangers. There's other teams in there as well. But I don't expect any of the big boys to sign quite yet. I think it's going to be way too early for that. And I know Passan has said that. I'm just sharing what I'm hearing. But yeah, we'll see. But that's kind of the sentiment that I ended up getting at the GM meetings.
Yeah, we are now less than a month out from the winter meetings. It's about 4 weeks. It's December 9th. Monday is the first day. So we're hitting that crucial point. Everybody in the Baseball Insiders comment section and the viewers on today's stream, I know y'all know that is sort of the frenzy, the start of the frenzy. But hopefully we get some more movement in the month leading up to that point. And hopefully Jeff Passan is hearing something that is actionable, because we would love a little bit of love some aggression from GMs, just like biscuit chewing. It would be great to see a little movement there. Tyler O'Neill, Adam Butler saying Tyler O'Neill catching strays. No strays. I'm just saying, like, if Tyler O'Neill is your big splurge, maybe you move Aaron Judge back to right field. If Juan Soto is your big splurge, you got to figure out something. You say, oh my gosh, we got Juan Soto. Great. You don't really care where Aaron Judge is. That's it. Tyler O'Neill, a great player. Feels like a good fit on the Pittsburgh Pirates to me, but obviously we'll get there when we get there. The Red Sox are starting to get too many outfielders.
Yeah, I'll say this. I think I agree with you that Tyler O'Neill would be a great fit on the Pirates. That being said, I don't think they're going to have the money for that. So we'll see, but that could be out of their price point.
Well, there you go. Hopefully all Pirates fans listen to me, then immediately hit mute when Robert started talking, and you get to the offseason with a modicum of enthusiasm, but maybe not. Saw a couple questions on the I do want to touch on both the Giants and Angels before we sign off, because there was some Angels TV news, Angels streaming deal, and there was sort of some rumblings that Artie was going to be a little bit less limited in his spending this offseason. Adrian Acevedo brought it up earlier on the show. Curious if you've heard anything on that front with regard to the Angels' aggression, which I assume Kyle Hendricks does not count.
No, that definitely does not count. And I don't know if this is out there about Hendricks's deal, but it is for $2.5 million with no incentives. So that is, it's just a straight up $2.5 million for Hendricks, which I think honestly, like, Hendricks is not the same pitcher he was a few years ago, but for $2.5 million, I don't think you can really go wrong with that. But as far as the Angels go, I absolutely think, I mean, they're going to be aggressive in the market. Like Perry has even said that as at any opportunity that he's had, he's going to look at every single option on the market. Like this has basically been a rinse, wash, and repeat every winter. He's going to be looking for starting pitching. He's going to be looking for relief pitching. He's going to be looking for infielders, and he's going to be looking for outfielders. I do think it was really interesting though that he singled out that he was looking for another power bat in addition to Soler. So I'm curious exactly who he could have his eyes on. Maybe a guy like Tyler O'Neill could make sense. I mean, that's just my own speculation. But I mean, I could see that being a potential option. Again, just speculation, no sources there whatsoever. I still kind of am skeptical that they're going to go out and get a star, but with Artie, you never know, man. I know I say that in every chance I can get with the Angels, but that is legitimately the case with Artie. You never know with him because he is as unpredictable as it gets.
And we know anything we share on this show regarding Artie's preferences could easily change by the end of the week show. And we'll see.
It legit changes when he wakes. It could change it with how he sleeps at night. It's legitimately that unpredictable. Yeah.
We will see you all back here too. Again, the times have been shifted a little bit because of the holidays, but this week, let me assure you that it is Thursday, 3:30 Eastern time, back to normal on the Baseball Insiders. After the show, I will be heading directly to the tailgate lot to see Jaden Daniels face off against Jalen Hurts, presuming that both stay healthy in time for that game. So there you go.
Go Birds, baby. That's all I got to say about that one. That's a huge game. I will be nervous. I know Cooper's already nervous as well. So we'll see. If the Eagles win that one, that'd be huge. I'd be very excited about that. Drew, we will answer your other All-Star question. I don't know what it was.
Yes, I was about to toss it in. It's regarding the Padres. That'll drop your jaw, I'm sure. But in terms of, obviously they're still pursuing upgrades, but they are going to have some form of budgetary constraints. A lot of Padres fans buzzing about, hey, Jake Cronenworth, Suarez, who might be available on the market. Who is more likely to be traded? Are either of those players in trade consideration?
I think with a guy like AJ Preller, he considers any and all options. I think his preference would be to keep both of those players because obviously Suarez is a really good, like really strong reliever, especially when he's healthy. Cronenworth, I mean, he's a player that organization has been high on for a long time, and rightfully so. I mean, he's got the versatility. He's a good bat. I think if you look at it though, I'm basing it off of this. If you're looking at a guy who could be a more realistic trade option, I think it would probably be Cronenworth because I don't know how many teams are going to be in a hurry to necessarily add a reliever with such a high salary. I think you can always find cheaper options on the market for relief pitching. We've seen the Yankees and plenty of other teams like find these bargain options on the market. So I'm going to go with Cronenworth there. I don't know necessarily how likely it is that either of them are traded, but it's a valid question by Drew, especially considering the payroll rumors, considering the Padres. And Preller, he wants about as much flexibility as possible. And if he has to move one of those players to add another player, I mean, maybe he considers that, but I have not heard any like legit buzz on either of those two being traded this offseason, at least as of this point.
Perfect. Well, good reminder to get your questions into the All-Star chat. Want to do the Giants just before we sign off. We got George Corey popping in at the end asking how active they're going to be. Had an earlier question about whether they're going to be going for high dollar guys. We know they're sort of involved on Soto, but there were corresponding reports that they're looking to cut from their current budget. Lamont Wade has been a floated trade candidate. Mike Yastrzemski has been a floated trade candidate. What are you hearing from Giants camp?
Yeah, I would say they're open, like especially if they're in the Juan Soto sweepstakes. They clearly have the budget to add a big salary. If they're going to try to get a meeting, as John Heyman reported, then they clearly have some sort of flexibility. I would imagine that probably does not extend to every free agent. Maybe it's a Soto or bust thing for them, or maybe if they have the ability to add a Corbin Burns type, I think that would be really intriguing because if you have a long-term rotation of Corbin Burns, Logan Webb, and Kyle Harrison, that's about as strong as a 1-2-3 punch as you can really ask for. And they got some really nice young options there as well internally. So I think that would make for one of the best young rotations in baseball, or just one of the best overall rotations in baseball if you end up adding him. But I also think in talking to some Giants people and talking to Buster Posey at the GM meetings, it sounds like they're really going to end up they're going to prioritize up the middle options. I think a Hassan Kim, a Willie Adames type could make a lot of sense there. We've seen the reports about Kim already. So I think the Giants will have some flexibility. But I'm curious to see exactly how much they spend because I don't know yet, but I know that they're considering a bunch of different possibilities here. I don't know if that answers your question directly, but that's at least what I know as of right now.
Perfect. Well, we will be back here on Thursday. It's just a 2-day break for you to get your questions ready. Pop into the All-Star chat. Hit us up in the rumor mill in the Discord, and obviously show up to the stream 3:30 Eastern on Thursday afternoon before I pregame Eagles Commanders. But I promise I will be clear-headed to talk through all the rumors that have dropped in the interim. Hopefully Cooper got a little nap in during the show, and we didn't wake him up by screaming about Tyler O'Neill. Robert Murray, thank you so much, as always, for joining me. Dog Dad Robert Murray, Blue Sky researcher Robert Murray, for joining me on another hectic Tuesday show. We'll be right back here in just 2 days.
No, that we will. I'm excited to be back here with you. I appreciate everyone who gave Cooper such a warm welcome. I am a little disappointed in MLB Deadline News for not actually aggregating the Cooper news. We will be talking about that with him after the show. No, I'm just kidding. That's not the case at all. But no, we appreciate everyone who tuned in to watch the show. We had a great audience today. Great comments over here. Adam, I appreciate you. Joanne, I appreciate you. And now I can say this, Cooper, I appreciate you too, buddy. And we'll see you back here on Thursday.
We will be right back here on Thursday. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. Until next time, we'll see you.
Thank you, everybody.